Happy Friday, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds to a minute. Just give it another few seconds or a minute for people to join us. But we have some movement in the MJ space, so always great to see. And thought I'd come on and do a live stream with you folks, and we'll go over any ticker requests or any questions. And we're going to do some technical analysis here today. So just sit tight, and we'll get started here in about a minute or so. All right, so I see we have some people joining us. Welcome, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back in the Pursuit of Wealth. Happy Friday. What's happening? We've got some movement in MJ land, so always great to see. So wanted to come on, do a live stream, get just a health check, see how everybody's doing, and we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds or so. Just before we get started, guys, let me know in the chat, how's everybody feeling out there today? Lots of green. Hopefully your portfolio is seeing some decent gains there today. But let me know in the comments how everybody's doing. I see we have some people joining us, so welcome. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, folks, going to get started in about 15 seconds or so. So grab yourself some sort of beverage, maybe a little victory. Today is one of those days where we can celebrate. So just sit tight and we'll get started here in about 10 seconds. All right, welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Today's Friday, November 12th, 2021. Hope everyone is doing awesome out there today. We'll keep the video a little shorter. We'll try to anyway today, with it being Friday and all. And I know a lot of people probably want to go out and celebrate with the recovery that we've seen. Some of our names on the American and the Canadian cannabis stocks, we've seen about 20 to 30 to 40, even 50% recovery from some of the lows there. So always great to see. So just before we jump into today's content, make sure to smash like, subscribe to the channel. But like I said, going to try and keep it a little shorter here today. But we'll run through some news and events on the day today, and then we'll look at some technical analysis and what I'm seeing in the market in both the Canadian and the American cannabis stocks. So just before we get in, I've got myself a Molo here. I've got a little victory as well, but currently drinking a Molo. So just before we jump in, I just want to say cheers to everybody who's joining the stream. And like I said, if you don't have yourself a beverage, I highly encourage a little victory, because today is a day for celebration. We've had some movement in pot stock land because of a new bill to federally legalize and tax marijuana. The difference is this is actually from a Republican-led part of the government, part of Congress. So this is great to see. We know that the Democrats have been on board with legalization, but the Republicans have sort of been holding things up a little bit. So this is always great to see, this bipartisan support. So that obviously created some hype in the market, but also we were just getting extremely oversold on a lot of the macro timeframes, and there eventually was going to come a time where we just, the scales are going to tip eventually. And we ran out of sellers, right? And eventually we had, also we have to keep in mind tax loss selling, right? So we've had a brutal few months, several months since February, really since the February highs, and even January, the US, the MSOS, the US stock started to come down quite a bit. So it's been a brutal, 8 months or so. And like I said, because of that tax loss selling, I think that a couple of months, in a couple of months around the corner here, we could be due for an explosive move in MJ. And I do think that the next MJ bull run is going to be the biggest bull run that we've ever experienced. And I don't think anybody can even really fathom what kind of gains are going to come as a result of that. Because like I said, We saw a huge run up when the Democrats took control of the Senate, right? But that was just on hopes of legalization. What's going to happen when they actually announce legalization? What's going to happen when these companies uplist to major exchanges? That's going to open the floodgates of all these financial institutions and smart money and lots of institutional interest, and that's going to obviously create a lot of hype and euphoria in the markets. We also saw a pretty strange title that we haven't seen in a really long time. Pot producers lift Toronto index to record highs. So always great to see. And MJ playing a little bit of a laggard play here. And we've seen some rotation out of Tesla. We know that Elon Musk was selling some of his Tesla stock, and that obviously hurt the share price, right? So we've seen some of that rotation, and SPY holding up pretty well. At this point, there's no major red flags. We'll take a look at that chart here as well in a moment just to get an overall health check of the market. But also in other news, husband of Trulieve, Cannabis CEO, sentenced to 3 years and fined $1.25 million. So not a good look for Kim Rivers, the CEO of Trulieve. But you can see here there hasn't been any really, just taking a look at the share price, nothing has really spilled over into that from that perspective, but we have consistently maintained that neither Trulieve nor our CEO are involved in the case, Trulieve said in a Twitter post. So in response to Burnett's conviction. So they continue to plead the fifth, and that they had absolutely no part in that. So just taking a look at the chart, nothing really to note there. Didn't seem to affect the stock price whatsoever. We also had earnings season this week. So we had GTI meets expectations with 5% sequential growth to $234 million in Q3. We also had Cresco Labs Q3 revenue increasing 3% sequentially to $215 million. So one thing I want to note here is that we are starting to see a little bit of slowing in the growth here year over year. And you can see here 5%, 3%. So I do think that we are sort of tipping, kind of topping out here a little bit, and we haven't seen that same momentum. But we know that the price to earnings, and we know that the EBITDA values, the EBITDA has just been insane with the MSOs, right? They've been constantly growing that margin by a significant amount, and we know that there's a lot more people in the U.S. But like I said, I've just been noticing that the MSOs seem to be topping out a little bit here over the last few quarters. And like I said, nobody was really spared, right? We've seen 50, 60, 70% pullbacks in the MSO and the American cannabis stocks, and we've seen upwards of 80 and 90% of a pullback in the Canadian MJ stocks. So nobody was spared in this brutal bear market and pullback. And like I said, I know it's very frustrating when the broader market and everything is at all-time highs. So I said, don't sweat it. MJ's turn will be just around the corner. And before you know it, we'll see 10, 20, 30% gains. And sure enough, like I said, some of the names in the MJ space have been up about 40% or so just in the last several days. So always great to see. Columbia Care revises 2021 outlook lower. So again, I'm starting to see some signs of MSOs starting to peak a little bit here in terms of growth momentum after Q3 revenue increases 144% to $132 million. So that one had a huge increase. But like I said, they revised their 2021 outlook lower. And also, in other news, Sundial reported third quarter 2021 financial and operational results. So I don't know about you, but I wasn't very impressed with these results. And I've never really been a big fan of Sundial. Never really understood what they were trying to do as a company and their business model. And like I said, I don't understand what all the hype is about. And if it wasn't for Wall Street bets, I don't know if this company would even still be standing today, but no offense to any of the Sundial investors out there. Maybe you can try to convince me otherwise. I always encourage thoughtful discourse. It's just never been a name that ever really spoke to me. And it seems like they're trying to be in the retail space, and they want to be an actual manufacturer and a products company, but they're also big into retail. So I'm just not really 100% sold on their business model. And conviction. My conviction there is just not sold. So, and only coming in at about 14 million net revenue. Like I said, that's a little lackluster in my opinion. But the stock was up about 25% off the back of the news that they announced a share repurchase program. So obviously the market was very bullish to that news, reacted very bullishly to that news. So we'll jump into some charting here. So I do want to bring up MSOS, as we do have a daily trend change today. So we are watching the chart here with the low of 25.75 And if we just zoom out to the monthly chart, you can see here from the all-time high back at 55.91, we had pulled back about 55%, and the all-time low sitting there at 20.45. So we got as low as 25.70. You had to start to wonder, right, when this was going to reverse, and all-time low being at $20 and 25 psychological being a nice round psychological number. Like I said, only $5 away from the all-time low. Not a bad idea to get to start averaging in my opinion, around those levels. That's why I've been, a lot of other YouTube channels kind of come out of the night, come out of hiding whenever MJ stocks do something. That's not how I roll. I generally do videos and I do updates when nobody wants to hear them, and people wonder why my videos don't get a whole lot of views. Well, that's because I'm not just trying to ride the trend. The whole idea of pursuit of wealth is finding trends before they actually occur, and that's a big mandate and thing that we live by here at in POW is we want to be in things before the masses are aware of it, right? We don't want to be in cannabis stocks when your friend and your dog are talking about it as well, right? When everybody and your dog is already in, there's no longer the maximum point of financial opportunity. So when retail investors are emotional and they're crying some kind of sad story or just whining for, again, no offense, but that's just how the retail emotional investor is it's typical. That's all these charts tell us is emotions and what people are feeling at any given time. And when there's fear, it's such a simple concept, right? When there's blood in the market, nobody wants to buy. And it's just so strange how that phenomenon works, because like literally over the last 3 months, the last thing I was thinking was selling. That was literally the last thing that crossed my mind. I've been in a laser focused buy mode, right? And you get all these other, like I said, these other channels that come out of the come out of the woodworks whenever the hype starts to return, and with very good reason. Some people are day traders and things like that. But when it comes to MJ, especially leading up to the biggest catalyst in our lifetime, which will only happen once, the U.S. will only end prohibition once and will only legalize it at the federal level once. You only get one shot at this. Do I want to wait for things to rebound in MJ, or do I want to be buying a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity when we're seeing blood in the streets, 50 to 80%, 90% downside? I'm not telling you buy, sell, or hold, or telling you what to do, but I know what I'm going to do. And I was buying back here in the summer of 2020 when nobody wanted pot stocks. Nobody was talking about it leading up into the elections. The charts were telling us that we could see more upside. And then that's what we got. We had the market, from the March lows of 2020 and COVID dump. It was just on an absolute tear, right? So that's when I was buying back in March 2020, the summer, or August 2020, and then I was selling into March 2021, right, into that February highs and into March, and ever since May, I've been dollar cost averaging back in. And like I said, I am not going to miss. If you thought Canadian legalization provided some nice yields and returns, then just you wait until you see what the U.S. legalization is going to do. So I, for one, am not going to miss that, and I'm going to start establishing my long-term positions. And just remember that when you buy something, you're most likely never going to time the bottom, right? So if you bought back here when MSOS was at 27 and then we shot to 30 and you thought you were a genius and then it came down and then you panic sold, well, just remember that there's a good chance that when you buy something, it's going to go lower than where you bought it at. But if you have that expectation, or if you scale in a 2 or 3 phased approach, maybe you add if we drop, if we lose a support level, maybe you add if we confirm a daily uptrend. So for example, today, if you were a more conservative bull, we had the low here at 25.70. So if you were really aggressive like myself, maybe you were playing off that 25 psychological level. Maybe you knew we were getting overextended to the downside and oversold conditions. We were approaching all-time lows. Maybe you're comfortable entering there. Maybe you're not, though, and you needed to see a daily trend change. So we had this huge bounce off 22% on an ETF, the high of 31.58, and then we started daily consolidation. So if you were more patient and you were waiting for a daily trend change, you could have entered here you could have started scaling in on this daily consolidation here on the low of 28.39, and you could have set your stop below 25.70. Again, that was a long ways away. You were looking at another almost 10%. But that's why we recommend scaling in. Again, this isn't financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. But if you would have started scaling in, you could have nailed the bottom there. And here we are breaking to a higher high. As soon as we broke 31.58, that confirmed a daily uptrend. And we still haven't really seen that EMA 12 and 26 bull cross, which could lead into Monday. So I'm thinking we could see a potential gap up. If you're wondering what we could potentially see on Monday, I think we could see a potential gap up on cannabis stocks, and then we see profit taking, and then we'll look for a higher low here somewhere in the $30 area to $29 area. But like I said, we have that new daily higher low at 28.39. That's going to be our key level going forward. If we lose that, we lose the daily uptrend, but we're not completely out of the woods yet. We need to confirm weekly uptrends to set these monthly higher lows. So now we have quite a bit of room here on the weekly time frame. So now we're going to be looking for, when we top out, we're going to look for a weekly higher low. We also have that gap here at 28.69, and then we'll look for a higher high on the weekly time frame, and then that'll give us our monthly higher lows. So great bounce in the sector. Like I said, 20% on an ETF, and then 40 and 50% on some individual names. That's great to see, but we absolutely need to confirm weekly uptrends. And one thing I wanted to highlight here, we've got a couple of patterns that I've been watching, and this actually was spot on to a T. So we had a bit of a descending triangle here using the candle bodies here on the weekly time frame, and we've got this bit of a falling wedge. So you can see here we were breaking out of the falling wedge. So this sloping resistance line here, and then this sloping line of support, we finally broke out of it on the weekly time frame. So as soon as we broke out of that, that was a very good signal. We had a couple fake outs there a couple of times, but I just drew that as best as I could with the real candle body. So just getting as many touches as possible. And you can see here, back here, we had a fake out, and look where that fake out occurred. It was also a descending triangle of sorts here on the weekly time frame. And if we take the measurement of that high to low of the neckline on the horizontal resistance line here of the ascending triangle, and we do a measured move, look where it took us, right exactly to the low of $25. So technical analysis is definitely beneficial to your investing in your trades, because you can't make this stuff up. That was absolute perfect measured move, played out to a T to $25. And like I said, breaking out of that falling wedge on the weekly time frame. On a weekly time frame, that's a macro level time frame. That's usually going to mean a huge amount of upside because of the fact that we're breaking out of such a prolonged downtrend and dated pattern that was all the way back here to February. So that was a perfect signal to bail. So, but a nasty bull trap here, right? When we had this reversal, we started the weekly bounce, and then that was the bull trap, and then we got that weekly descending triangle follow through, and it played out perfectly to a T. So again, we don't have crystal balls. We can look at the charts. Again, I want MJ stocks to go up just as much as anybody, but I don't look at it with my bull blinders on, right? I don't look at it from a biased perspective. As much as I want stocks to go up because I'm net long, I'm looking at these patterns and I'm saying, hey guys, I'm just being real with you. This is what I'm seeing, and we could see a lot more downside. I said that for a long time. Be prepared to see a lot more downside, and that's exactly what we got. We have the all-time high weekly volume here on MSOS as well, so that's definitely indicative of a bottom being formed. And we would have touched down on weekly oversold the first time in history of the ETF. So no wonder we didn't get extreme. If you're wondering why we didn't get extremely oversold like some of our other names, it's probably because it's an ETF and it has never ever been weekly oversold. So the second it touches down right on that 30 RSI level, there's going to be a lot of people interested, especially with the prospects of U.S. legalization and a bill. And just funny how that bill comes out right at that measured move of $25, right? It's funny how they release that news right there. So that technical analysis, it lines up with news events. So when I see this, as soon as I start to see that we're down this much and that we're confirming that descending triangle and we're reaching that target, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for news, because what else is left to happen, right? And how else are they really going to change the sentiment in the sector when SPY's at all-time highs, crypto's at all-time highs, everything's at all-time highs? What's it going to take for MJ to reverse, right? Probably some sort of legalization improvement or prospect or some sort of movement in Congress, right? And that's exactly what we got. So it's just, once you learn the game, I know a lot of people, it's been very emotional. I know it's been a brutal few months, but again, the more and you can look at this and you can want to shut your computer and turn off your trading and close your account and never want to look at this and do it again. Maybe the market isn't for you, you say, or MJ stocks just aren't for you. You're going to go do tech stocks only. Well, I can guarantee you this isn't the only time this is about the 7th or 8th bear market we've had in the MJ market of 60 to 90% pullbacks. And I guarantee you it's not going to be the last one. So take what you can from this as a learning, lesson and apply that to future investments, right? Because this is going to happen in the tech world. It's going to happen in the crypto industry. It happens a lot in the crypto industry, and crypto and MJ are very, very similar. So, like I said, the two most volatile industries on the planet, we need to expect 60 to 80 to 90% pullbacks. But if you're buying in a bear market when we're pulling back 50, 60, 70, 80%, and you're dollar cost averaging into those positions, that's not the only strategy, but I'm just using that as an example. You are light years ahead of the rest of the majority and the typical stereotypical retail investor, because most people were selling, right? And who's left to buy if all retail's selling, right? It's the smart money, the financial institutions, the big banks buying your fear. They're paying these companies to release press releases and get everybody as emotional as they can, and then they play your emotions like a violin, and then when you least expect it, a bill comes out and everything jumps 20, 30, 40%. And now I guarantee you what people are saying is, now I'm going to wait for a pullback, right? This is the psychology, right? No, I'm selling and I'll buy back lower, or I'll switch to another stock and I'll recoup my losses. I just can't see this week after week, month after month, just go lower and lower and lower. And then we have all this technical analysis indicating that the bottom is likely near, and we're weekly oversold and daily oversold and never been weekly oversold. And people are selling now. They're selling around these $30 and $25 levels on some of the MSOS, for example. And then what happens is you see this huge move, right? And then they're trapped, right? So then they're left scrambling, but then you get the denial phase, right? You get that investor psychology cycle. And, this is frustration and anger and despair. You're here at the bottom, you're capitulating, and you don't even want to look at MJ stocks for at least a couple of weeks, right? And then all of a sudden a bill comes out to legalize and you're like, oh my God, is this, why me, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm in denial. It's just another pump and dump, right? This is just going to be another pump and dump. Don't worry. Yeah, here we are. We're consolidating. 2 days later, we're going right back to 25. And then we see a daily uptrend confirm. And then those same people are thinking, oh, okay, well, that's not what I was expecting. Well, I'll buy the next dip. And then what I think could happen on a lot of these names is we could see another push into next week. We did close at the high of the week this week. So generally, when we close at the high of the week, we're usually setting up, like I said, all-time high record volume. We're usually setting up for a gap up into Monday. So we'll see. We haven't yet tested EMA 26. We're basically sandwiched right in between those EMAs. So like I said, you get that anger and frustration and despair and then full capitulation. Then you get that next huge move of 20% and people are in denial, and then they think it's just another pump and dump, comes down, but then we change the daily trend and then they're scrambling. They're just waiting for a dip that never comes. And then generally we see another huge move. And then, like I said, on the weekly time frame, as big of a bounce as possible, we want to see to get a higher low followed by a higher high, change that weekly trend. The daily's great, right? First time we've done that in many, many weeks, but we need to change the weekly trend to set these monthly higher lows. And that's all this is at the moment, is a monthly higher low here compared to the all-time low at 2045. So one thing I want to highlight as well, we have a extremely bullish close here on the weekly time frame. We closed over the 10-week moving average, which is the first time since the all-time highs. So extremely bullish macro indicator number one. Stochastic is blasting off into space, and we've got the MACD crossing bullish as well. And if you're wondering where we could potentially top out here, where we don't have any resistance until the 50 weekly moving average there at 38.52. But on the daily time frame, we've got a couple levels here as well. So we have a lot of resistance there at $38 level. 38.36 is also the 200-day moving average. And we did have that death cross as well back here. So not only did we have the weekly descending triangle, we had the death cross of the 50 and the 200 daily moving averages. So as if that falling wedge and the descending triangle pattern wasn't enough, we had a death cross. The name of that cross of that term should just spell sell, right? And sure enough, if you would have exited there on that death cross, that would have been around $35, would have saved yourself about $10 more of downside. But again, generally, now's the time where we want to be buying, not where we want to sell, right? So another level to be watching is 33.18 there at the 100-day moving average. And one thing I wanted to highlight here as well, HMMJ, the Canadian, the Horizons Marijuana Life Sciences ETF, daily uptrend as well. It's here low, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low. We've actually got a couple of levels there, a little bit of a stair step action. Excuse me there, I had to cough. So you can see here we had the low, high, higher, low here at 766. As soon as we broke 778, 744 was the low. As soon as we broke 778, that confirmed the daily uptrend. And then we had a higher low here at 783. So that's our new daily higher low support. So if you're looking at support levels, we're looking at 783 and 744. 783 has to hold for the daily uptrend to remain intact. But closing near the high of the day, looking real strong. Closing at the high of the week, just under EMA 12. Like I said, potentially setting up for a gap up into Monday rather. And like I said, continue to see a bit more upside, I think. And if we look at the HMMJ chart on the weekly, we're seeing the same thing. Close above 10-week moving average, which is the first time we've closed above it really since we had a little bit of a fake out there. So I guess we can kind of just ignore that a little bit there. But now we're seeing close at the high of the week. And you can see here we had upper wicks forming, right? So we closed right at the high. Looks like bulls want more in the next week. And like I said, the stochastic blasting off into space and the MACD crossing bullish as well. That is the first time the MACD has crossed bullish since December of 2019. Yes, that is correct. You heard me correct. 2019, not 2020, 2019. So you're looking at a couple of years where we finally saw that bull cross on the MACD. And if we just bring up a few names, let's bring up CGC. So Canopy, same deal. Canopy, the first time we've seen that bull cross really since all the way back here, same time. Well, we had a little bit of some chop there on CGC. I know Hexo had a similar chart. So look at this. Hexo had a bear cross of the MACD, and that was back in February, and that marked the top. So if you sold, like myself, I was averaging out. I was buying back here, and I was, I had an average of about $2 post split, and then I was selling into strength. I think I sold this, the highest I sold was $10. I didn't quite catch the $11 area, but I was scaling out into $10, and then I started averaging back in, around the 6, 7, 5, and then below that, just dollar cost averaging in. But look what happened after we had a MACD bull cross and we closed above the 10-week moving average after a huge downfall. We ran about 350% from the low to the high here in just a few months. And then we ran about 800% from the low to the high here about a year later. So in about 3 months, we ran 350%. And in about 12 months, we ran 800%. So if you put $1,000 in, a year later, it would have been worth $8,000. And that was after the MACD had crossed bullish and we had closed above the 10-week moving average. Now look what's happening. We closed above the 10-week moving average there at 178. We closed at 180, and we're seeing the stochastic and the MACD bull crosses. And like I said, if we just follow this black line, that marked the bottom, or that marked the top when we had that bear cross. And here we are crossing again, the first time since December 2019. And let's just bring up a few other names. Tilray. So Tilray seeing a close over 10-week moving average and the stochastic and MACD blasting off. We've got Trulieve as well. Let's get a health check on these. So Trulieve looking really good. So it looks like the whole MJ space is about to melt faces here. And let's just take a look at GTII. So GTII, haven't seen that MACD bull cross yet, but so a little bit of a laggard there. So getting close though. Cureleaf. So actually closed below the 10-week moving average, so a little bit weaker than some of our other names. So Trulieve, lead bull, in my opinion, in the American side. And like I said, we're starting to see huge reversals in the whole sector. And this is what we want to see. This is absolutely what we want to see as bulls. So on the bull and bear list today, we had KHRN, NBEV, and BioHarvest leading the decline. Wasn't a whole lot of losers, but a lot of winners today. CXXI led the bull list. Close at 90 cents. TerraSend, Acreage, CWeb, and Cura up all over double digits today. So congrats to the bulls. And taking a look at the Canadian side, so we had PWR, XTRX, and Labs, Fire and Flower, and Love down as well. I know a lot of people were asking why Cannara Biotech wasn't seeing any love, no pun intended, but that it's just because we've seen all the major tier one companies, right? Like all the look at all the major tier one LPs, right? 30%, 15%, 10%. So we're not seeing the lower caps. Once these big tier one companies start to top out, just watch for those mid to small cap names that might start to see some spillover from some of those profits being taken, right? As we look for daily higher lows on a lot of our tier one companies. So SNDL leading the bull list today. Like I said, that share repurchase program sparked some momentum and some fire in the bulls. And High Tide, CGC, ACB, Cron, PCLO, all leading the bull list with double-digit gains. Hexo's had quite a few good days in a row here as well. And just looking at the all-time low of 127, coming off the lows, we're up almost 44%. So the reason why I highlighted that, CGC too, right after that bomb earnings, and everybody thought, sell CGC, out of nowhere we just shoot up 35%. SNDL must have been up the most, 52%, yep. So Tilray off the lows there it actually never got to a lower low like CGC did, but we're looking at 30% off the lows. OGI, nice bottom there. Nice base of support there around the 220. OGI not seeing as much love though, but only 10%. If we go from the absolute low there, looking at about 15%. So SNDL and Hexo, and Hexo actually owns shares of SNDL because they own shares in Inner Spirit Holdings. So I think when SNDL does well, it's good for Hexo as well in the retail space. But SNDL seeing huge gains from the lows there. Like I said, 55%. And then Hexo, nice bounce there. Like I said, off 127, 43. So second on our list. And the names that are beat up more generally tend to shoot up a lot more as well, right? So the more the bigger the pullback, the bigger the bounce, essentially. And we've now been pulling back for 6 months in a row. And that's gotta be time to be expecting a reversal, right? It's got to be that time to start scaling in my opinion. But we have yet to break the high of the previous monthly candle. So 197 is going to be the next resistance to be watching. If we break 197, the monthly bounce will be underway. And then we can potentially see a move all the way up to EMA 12 there at 378. And this is all in USD, looking at the NASDAQ ticker. So just taking a look here at the weekly time frame. So again, we had this downward sloping resistance line that we finally broke out of, and we're starting to see these volumes pick up to levels where they were back here in December and November, right before we had that huge move to 1104. So you can see here, volume precedes price, and we had that huge, biggest volume day ever, followed by another pump, and then that's when we started to see price catch up with volume, and then we saw that huge blow off top there on the monthly, or on the weekly, rather. And like I said, just following this resistance line, you can see here we finally closed we got out of it first of all, and now we finally closed above it. So that's the first time we've closed above that resistance line on some very high volume. It's certainly looking like the bottom is in, but we do have earnings coming up real quick here on Hexo at the end of December. So pretty much going to wrap it up here. I think I've pretty much said everything, covered everything I wanted to cover. So if anybody does have any questions or ticker requests, let me know. If you want to just hang around for a little bit, it's Friday. I've got my Molo chilling beside me. Going to have a swig. And Molo, cheers to everybody. Like I said, grab yourself a little victory, some wine, alcoholic beverage, whatever you like to do to unwind on a Friday evening. But thanks again for everyone for joining us on today's live stream. Like I said, always great to see some movement and some green in the space. And yeah, I think a lot better days are ahead. I think we could see, in conclusion, I still think we could see a little bit of selling here leading up into the end of the year. So just don't be surprised if, we start to pull back on some of our names. We'll just look at MSOS, for example. Don't be surprised if we come back. We could see another gap up. Like I said, potentially we test the $32 to $35 area. Then we pull back for a higher low somewhere around here, around the $30 to $29 area. But don't be surprised if we do see a pullback. And like I said, we need to change weekly trends And that's when generally a lot of people get faked out as well, right? Is when we see a significant pullback. But if we see a significant pullback from here, just keep in mind that that's going to set us up for a weekly trend change. So we could pull all the way back to about $27, $26, form a weekly high or low, and then break to a higher high, change that weekly trend, set those monthly higher lows. And at that point, 100% confident basically that the bottom's in. Well, can never be 100% confident. Anything can happen, like black swan events like March 2020, but pretty close to as 100 as we can get. We'll be very convinced in that bottom being set. So like I said, tax loss selling could help the bears, fuel the bears a little bit into the end of the year here, and we'll see if January and February and the first half of 2022 ends up being a favorable part of the year for MJ stocks. I really do think it's going to be 2022 is going to be the year of MJ. So, all right, just going to check up on some of the messages here. You mastered the psychology of retail investor. Yeah, well, I am one, right? And I went through all of it, and that's why I created POW Group, was so that, because I can't stand Reddit, to be honest with you. I'm never on it, even in Facebook and stuff like that. If you're wondering why you don't see me a whole lot on social media, it's because, well, I'm focused a lot on POW Group and the private members that we have in there, those paid members. But, it's so much easier when people are actually paying for something. If they're paying for a service, they're going to take it a lot more seriously, and you get a lot of trolls on YouTube and things like that. So I take a lot of heat and smack when MJ's down 80, 90% and I'm doing video. Like I said, a lot of channels only do videos when it's hot and trendy. So then they don't look, well, to other people, they don't look like they're idiots or they don't know what they're talking about because, oh yeah, MJ's going up, or, it starts to reverse, right? But like I said, my style is I buy when there's blood in the streets. I'm very much a Warren Buffett type of investor, and history shows that if you just buy and hold, you will succeed 95 or maybe even more percent than the average trader. So 95% of people or more fail at day trading or swing trading. I do a little bit of day trading. I've been day trading. I've been, trading in general for about 5 years. I've been investing for over 10 years, but I'm very much an investor first, then a swing trader, then a day trader. I usually only trade when my capital isn't tied up on these, in crypto and MJ, and I usually only trade whenever the market is, starting to reach a top. So I usually just get my long bags at the bottom, right? Especially with crypto and MJ, we know that these sectors are the most volatile sectors on the planet. So yes, they can drop 80 to 90%, but at the beginning of the next bull market, it's going to shoot up probably, 5 to 10x, maybe even 20x. So if you want to be a part of those 10, 20x gains, well, you're your biggest hurdle, right? You getting out of your own way and just being patient. The data shows if you just buy and hold. Now, again, my strategy isn't for everybody, but just seeing, the amount of people that I said that dubbed themselves as a day trader, and then you ask them how it's going 6 months later, and they're, that wasn't for me. I lost all my money, and I'm never doing that again, right? So that's not what you want to do. You don't want to start as a trader. It takes years. Like I've been trading and day trading for 5 years, and I'm still not an expert at it, and I still have a lot to learn. I think I have a pretty good grasp on it. But like I said, it's much, I don't want to be glued to the screen all the time. I can travel in Colorado. I can go across the country, and I don't have to be glued to the screen all day. And you just hear these stories of people just being on their chair and having neck pain and all that stuff. I had neck pain too for a while. And, you just got to do what's best for your own health as well. And being glued to the screen and, all that stuff all day long is just not how I want to live my life. I don't want to work a job. I've always wanted to be my own boss, right? So I want to do my own thing. I don't want to be a slave to the computer or a slave to the market. And like I said, if I had a dime for everybody that said, oh, I should have just held, right? Patience is a virtue and probably the most important aspect of investing. And like I said, if you want to be a part of those life-changing gains, in my opinion, crypto and MJ is not for trading. I really don't think so. If you're buying in a bear market and selling at the top of a bull market, you're going to do far greater than you would trying to time the market. And you might even try to time it, and then you finally miss that big move, right? Like case in point, the last few weeks, maybe you were exiting here when everything was in the dumps at 52-week lows, and you said, you know what, I'm going to sell and buy back cheaper, or I'm going to sell and buy something else like Tesla, and then I'll buy back after. And then Tesla, you bought Tesla at 1,200 or 1,100 thinking it was going to 15. Then Elon Musk sells his shares out of nowhere, drops it to 1,000. You're now down, 15% there or whatever. And then now you're going to look back at MJ stocks and you're like, oh, damn, everything shot up 20 to 40%. And now you're looking to buy the temporary top again. And then we're going to come back for a weekly high or low and try a weekly trend change. And then they're going to get faked out again. Right. And that's when the markets aren't for them. Right. Maybe MJ or the market just isn't for me. So it's a very simple concept. Buy low, sell high. But it's not simple to do because there's so many emotions. Just take example for the Hexo FUD. Where are all the bears at saying it's going bankrupt? Right? Nobody around. The other week, every single time you turn around, someone's commenting or posting Hexo bankruptcy, right? But the silly emotional retail investor didn't know that the 20-day VWAP needed to fall below $1.50 USD. The 20-day VWAP never fell below $1.50. It didn't even come close. I think the lowest it got was like 162 or something like that, 165. So when people saw that, why do you think it stayed under $1.50 for 5 days? Because they knew that it doesn't matter if it goes below 150. The 20-day volume weighted average price has to go below 150. So even though the price was below 150, the volume weighted average price over the last 20 days was still higher than 150. But retail, all emotional like, right? Just blah, 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 blah. I don't know what I'm going to do about this light bill, right? And then they sell and then they try to time the market. And that's in MJ and in crypto is the last thing you want to do is try to time the market because out of nowhere, you'll see 20, 30, 40% gains. SNDL up almost 60%, right? So, like I said, why do you think we only stayed below for 5 days below 150? To scare the crap out of retail. All retail thinks they're going bankrupt. Then Munzar, an insider of the company and the chair of the board of directors, market buys and buys the all-time low. Now the insiders are in. And now they're waiting for MJ to reverse to probably release a lot of good news about their CPG partner and all that good stuff. They got a new CEO now. They got a lot of that bad garbage out of the way, for lack of a better word. But, even Munzar buying was a huge, green flag, right? That is probably not going to last below that very long. And then why do you think we recovered so much from 150 so quickly, right? Because the market makers don't want it to be below there. And also, we don't want it to be below there for too long because the lower the share price is, yes, we can solve those debt redemptions in shares, but we don't want the price being at the all-time low because in order to make up that dollar equivalent, that $22 million, well, issuing shares at $1.27 is going to create a lot more dilution than if we got it back above 150 or up here at 180. It's going to take a lot less shares to meet that that capital requirement and that debt redemption, right? So now there's every incentive in the world, but keep in mind, that person of the unknown entity and financial institution that has that debt loan to them, the lender, that they don't care. They even revised it down from $5 to $1.50. So it just goes to show you how this game is played, and it's a very, very dirty game, right? It really is, and a lot of people just, they can't fathom that. It's just no, that would never happen, right? But this isn't the first time they've done this. They've done this in crypto. They've done this in tech stocks. They've done this with Amazon. They did this with Tesla. I posted on my channel. I said many times there. I showed examples of Tesla. And again, I'm not comparing. If I hear anybody else tell me not to compare this to Tesla or Bitcoin, I'm going to scream because that's just absolute nonsense. How can you not compare the two most volatile assets on the planet to one another? And what mainstream media is saying. Again, I'm not comparing Tesla to Hexo, so just shut up. Okay, just joking. But in seriousness, I'm comparing what mainstream media was doing when Tesla was before the big breakout, right? They were saying bankruptcy. They don't make nearly as many cars. They make less cars in a year than Toyota makes in a month, right? Just FUD. And then that financial FUD. And then we go on the biggest run in history. Again, what are the the mainstream media, the talking heads saying about Hexo, they're saying financial FUD, it's going to go bankrupt. It's like they're playing you at a 52-week and all-time low. Now, if that news came out back here or here, I'd be like, okay, but that's not what we saw. We saw Motley Fool articles justifying how Hexo is going to go to $200 a share and $400 a share, and even called it the Coca-Cola of cannabis, but at an all-time high because they were selling and the market makers were selling, and you bought, and most the silly emotional retail investors believed it. And then they saw a brutal 80 to 90% pullback. And now who's left to buy? The same people that were selling here, which are the institutions, right? It's so blatantly obvious. And one thing I want to note on Hexo, we closed over EMA 26, so woohoo! Check that out. First time we closed over EMA 26 since June 11th. Wow. June 11th. What's that? 154 days it took to close over daily EMA 26. And we still could see a bull cross of those EMAs. So like I said, we could see more upside. And back here, right, when people saw this low 127 and the high at 146, they said, no, just another lower high and a pump and dump. And then we came down, we formed a higher low, and we changed the daily trend as soon as we broke 146. And then people are like, okay, well, now I'll buy the dip. And then what I could see happening is they'll just keep running it. And then people end up buying closer to $2 or maybe even above $2 because they'll get as much FOMO going and hype as possible. And then people end up buying that. And then we get the daily and weekly consolidation that we know needs to happen to change the weekly trend. And then they're going to get faked out again, right? So just don't let that person be you. Please, for the love of, Mary Jane, just don't give in to your emotions. The second you're hitting buy or sell button because of emotions, if you're starting to feel a certain way, and you feel anger or happiness in you, and you're buying out of sheer euphoria, or you're buying out of sheer panic and emotion, maybe take a lap, right? Because the last thing we want to do is buying something with an emotional state of mind, right? We want to use data, facts, and logic and look at things, from an unbiased point of view and an unemotional point of view. And the best way to do that is to just identify where we're at in the cycle. Well, we're in a bear market. We're in a bear cycle, right? We're now down almost 90% on a lot of these names. How much more downside are we really going to see, right? It just doesn't compute. It doesn't make logical sense. So you know that there's probably going to be greener days ahead. No pun intended. So yeah, I feel like I've mastered but as much as I've mastered it, Clorox, I preach and I preach it. I feel like a broken record, but it's just like, man, there's some people just really don't get it. It's just heartbreaking, right? Because I know it's not going to end well, and then they go chasing, and that's when you end up quitting, and then the market isn't for me, and that's what I don't want to see anybody. Like, I could care less if Hexo went to zero. Like, I was selling back or MJ, for example. I was selling MJ back here into strength, right? I didn't know where it was going to top out. I didn't sell the exact top. I think I was out before $10, like 990s or 980s. I didn't time the top because I'm not a wizard. I don't know, right? But when we were daily RSI was sitting here at 85, close to 90, extremely overbought, the weekly as well. Well, you know that it's going to come eventually. And then if we zoom out to the weekly, we had that huge blow off top there on the weekly candle. So it was very obvious, right? So we just knew. And then plus all the other names were breaking down as well. But it's just, it comes with experience, obviously. But selling back here. Now I'm averaging back in, right? So again, I never invest any more than I'm willing to lose. And dollar cost averaging into a bear market, that is my strategy when it comes to the most volatile asset on the planet, crypto and MJ. I just buy in bear markets. Why overcomplicate it? You go, like crypto, for example, you go to bed and you wake up and things are up 30% and you're like, what? How was I supposed to time that, right? Again, you probably made a mistake when you tried to time the market. So just put case in point, Bitcoin went from 3,000, right? And in a 2-year brutal bear market, went from 20,000 to 3,000. And then went from $3,000 to $69,000 US, right? We're looking at almost 100 grand Canadian. So like just how much money would you have made if you just put 10 grand into Bitcoin when it was in the bear market, even if you were dollar cost averaging in, even at 10 grand, if you started dollar cost averaging in and you got your average down to, 7,500. Well, 7,500 into $69,000, but then you got to be patient on the way up, right? Then you got to learn how to manage your emotions on the way up, just as we need to manage them on the way down. It's just as important to manage them on the way up and set price targets, just like we set price targets for on the down slope in the bear market, just like we scale in and we set targets for entries. We do the same thing on the upside. We set targets for profit, right? So I hope that helps, because like I said, I feel like I'm a broken record here sometimes, but I think for a lot of people it is finally clicking in, but you just a lot of people just need to go through the pain, right? Once you go through 80 to 90% pullback, you're like, okay, I get it. I totally understood what Rod and Powbot were saying, that the market can always go lower, and just when you think it can't go any lower, it goes lower than that. I say that saying a lot because it has never been more true. So bring on CPG Food Partnership, Hexo at the time of December earnings. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think December earnings are going to be huge. I think we're going to see upwards of $55 to $60 million in revenue for the next quarter. And then Redican in March, Q2. Oh man, like 80 million plus. Like, it's going to be epic. Like, people are just going to be like, and pretty soon you're going to, and they only ever talk about Hexo when it's negative, right? They don't ever talk about it when it's positive or release any when's the last time you've ever seen like a Hexo on the main page of anything, right? But pretty soon we're going to see, now that they got the financial FUD out of the way. Now there was even an article here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I noticed it was, but pretty soon you're going to start seeing some articles like the cannabis stock nobody knows about, or the cannabis stock that nobody's talking about, or the next Coca-Cola of MJ. And people are just going to be like, who the hell is this Hexo? But yet they're number one market share in Canada at the moment. But I'm just trying to find that article here. It was from Forbes, I think, or NASDAQ. It's from the NASDAQ. Let's see if I can find that here. So I noticed they didn't mention like the regular canopies. Here it is. So yeah, why Cureleaf, Aurora, and Hexo shares jumped today. So now we're starting to see Hexo be chucked in there more with the big wigs, right? And like I said, we haven't seen that too much. And again, they continue to list it at the end. they have to talk about Aurora first, right? Oh man, but yeah, you're gonna start seeing like Hexo, the sleeper that nobody saw coming, or the small cannabis company that shot up to number one market share that nobody knows about, or the Coca-Cola of the industry. I really do think that's going to become a thing. But yeah, CPG partner news would be great right around those times. So I think it's just going to be like bang, 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 and it's just gonna explode. It's leading into those two catalysts, and then CPG partner news. We get U.S. legalization news. Like, man, Hexo at $30 and $40 a share. Not even out of the realm of reality. Like, very doable in the next coming year, in my opinion. EPS positive into Q3 and Q4 2022. Like, yeah, buddy. So, BMMJ. Let's take a look at BMMJ real quick. So BMMJ, again, not seeing the love today, right? Because it's been performing fairly well. It was performing fairly well while everything else was down. So we saw a lot of money leave the big MSOs and stuff like that, and LPs, and then it went into the smaller caps, and BAM was doing well there for a little while. But now we're not seeing the love in the small caps, right? So we've got some names up 20-30%, and and whatnot. And then you've got U.S. big MSOs that are up, double-digit gains. And then you're looking at the smaller caps, and they're not really doing a whole lot. CXXI was up a whole lot today, though. So that's a good sign for BAM. Usually when CXXI is running, BAM likes to run as well. So we'll be looking at this pennant here, and this horizontal that's forming. But one would have to think, right, that if the whole sector is starting to reverse, that BAM's probably going to reverse. And that's a name I'm really bullish on. But we're pretty choppy here on BMMJ at the moment. We were weekly inside bar that broke bullish. But let's take a look at BAM just to see if we can see any other. So we did top out right at the EMA. So EMA 12 has been rejecting the price for the last month or so. Well, ever since we lost it. So if we close the month over the EMA 12, that's going to be notable because we haven't done that since we lost it. And then look where we closed today, right below it, right? So if we can close next week over 51 cents, 51 and a half cents, so say 52, then we can expect a lot more upside. But as soon as we start, like we got up there, right? We got to 56, but then it ended up being a bit of a bull trap. And if we break above that EMA and close above it and break above 156, we've got a lack of resistance all the way up to 74. And then after 74, we really don't have any resistance to 114. So I think BAM is a great entry at these levels, personally. But let's take a look at BAM here on the weekly chart over on the macro indicator. So again, close below the 10-week moving average. And we've been failing for the last several weeks. So failed to close over 54. We actually had a bear cross here not too long ago of the MACD. So that's not what we want to see. So now we want to see that reverse and the black cross through the red. We want to see that bull cross. We want to see a stochastic bull cross. And we want to see a close over the 10-week moving average there at 54. So like I said, I think that major tier 1 LPs and MSOs are going to get a little bit more interest and attention and upside into next week. And then we could start to see a little bit of a laggard here from the mid to low cap. But you can see still a lot of work to do there on BAM, needing to close over the 10-week moving average and needing a bull cross on both the stochastic and the MACD. In terms of the weekly moving averages, we are trying to hold the 100 weekly moving average there at 49 cents. So the fact that we closed above that with some lower wicks is a good sign. And we've got look where we topped out, right at the 50 weekly moving average at 57 cents. So 57, so the 50 weekly moving average is going to be important to close over as well. And then from there, we have the 200 weekly moving average at 70 cents, and then the lower high, the recent high at 74. So 70 to 74 cents if we do see a break into next week and some rotation from the larger names. In terms of the daily moving averages, we also topped out at the 50-day moving average. So that has been a brick wall as well. We have yet to close above it since we lost it. And yeah, we're holding actually we did close below the 100-day moving average there at 51 cents, but the weekly is what I was concerned about. So it looks like we could just see a little bit more choppy action and sideways action. But just taking a look, we could see we were lining up for a potential golden cross here. We had a bull cross of the 50 and the 100, and then we were lining up for a golden cross of the 50 and the 200, but we ended up reversing back down. And again, we had that momentum, and then BAM was running, and now we're seeing the focuses on the tier 1 names, and then BAM started to regress a little bit here. So what I could see is potentially come back down, make another curl, and then we get a bull cross and a pretty big move out of nowhere, I think, on BAM. But obviously news can change any of these. Technical analysis is great, right? But it only works to a certain extent, right? It's just probabilities. And if somebody drops news, well, obviously the chart can't tell us when news is going to come out. You can get some clues. If BAM is super strong, while everybody else is super weak, well, then, that's obviously a clue that, well, maybe somebody knows something we don't, right? But news is always something that it can come out at any time. So like I said, it's looking good. I like the weekly close on BAM over the 100 weekly moving average, and it'll be all about closing over the 10-week moving average there at 54 cents into next week. But yeah, very bullish on BAM. Probably one of my most favorite low cap in the American space. Considering how low we went, we still have a lot ways to go for one victory at a time. Yeah, absolutely. Baby steps. It's it's a journey, right? It's a pursuit. Wealth doesn't just happen overnight. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate it, Fred. Thanks for joining us, man. May I ask how you feel about T-God? I've been burned by T-God, like when I was, first starting in cannabis stocks, before I really knew what I was doing and got a handle on things. Lost a lot of money with T-God. I like the turnaround that they're on, but not something I hold at the moment in my portfolio. I think there's a lot more better plays out there, but it could turn around. That would be one name I wouldn't sleep well on if I had a lot of money into it. Right. The only reason why I sleep well with some of my investments is because I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of research on them, fundamentally and technically, and I've sampled a lot of their products or what have you. I've just done a lot of research, and I put my my due diligence and my time in, and I'm just very confident holding them, right, and dollar cost averaging in. When most people are losing their mind, I just my conviction is so high that I wouldn't sleep well not owning any shares, right? So TGOD is one of those companies, though, that I sleep perfectly well just not having any. Like I said, I think I bought it back at like $5 back in the day after the bubble popped after Canadian legalization. And, thinking that I was getting in near the bottom, and I was super sold on it. But ended up selling it around $3. But good thing I sold it at $3 because it went all the way to like 20 cents. So that was a brutal slide on TGOD. And yeah, I feel for anybody that held that as long as they did. I know somebody that had 6 figures into it. And it'd be lucky to be worth 5 figures today. How heavily shorted is Hexo? You can just go to shortdata.ca. So you can check out here some of the shorts. You can check out the percentage of the float too. Generally, just do Yahoo Hexo. Percentage short statistics. Percentage held by insiders 6%, held by institutions 15%, which they're not selling. And short percentage of float, short ratio 3.01, shares short 9.22 million. So shares short of percentage of shares outstanding 2.96. So shares short 9.22 million. So yeah, I'm not really too concerned about the. It's not something I really focus on personally in my trading strategy. But you can check out shortdata.ca. I will always welcome a short squeeze, right? But just my strategy is buy in a bear market when there's 80%, 90% pullbacks. Just buy. I don't care about really how much people are short. I know I wouldn't want to be short when things are down 80, 90%. And like I said, the other day when all that financial FUD came out about Hexo, I was buying again. I said I'd add at 125. Didn't get to 125, so I missed that last entry. I still have an open order at 125 and an open order at $1. Again, set price targets and entries, dollar cost average. If it doesn't hit, great. If it hits, great, right? But have a plan, be ready for both scenarios. And I could care less if it ever comes down and touches those last 2 orders because my bags are packed. And like I said, from the low there, you're up 42%. So it's like I said, how many articles were out about and then Hexo closed facilities, and that's another thing too. MJ Biz Daily, a lot of respect, mad respect for those guys because they always take some time with their titles and try to do it genuinely and honestly and with just with in good faith. But you see a lot of the other articles like BNN saying Hexo closing 3 facilities and laying off 130 employees, 150 employees, whatever it was. MJ Biz said Hexo closing recently acquired facilities from acquisitions, right? That's a big difference in terms of a title than Hexo's closing. Like the difference is Hexo didn't close any of their facilities. They closed the 48 North and the Cannabis, and they didn't close Atholville, New Brunswick, which is Cannabis's main indoor facility. That was the crown jewel, as Trent would say, and the gem in the deal. And they're just getting ready. That's going to help with the cost savings. Like, what do people think synergies are? Like, just retail investors sometimes. It's just we are our own worst enemy, right? And it's just if you just think about things logically, when all that stuff's going on and all this 20-day VWAP and debt redemptions and stuff, well, what about the lender renegotiating from $5 to $1.50? Like, obviously, they don't care about they want more shares, right? They probably think Hexo's super undervalued. Rightly so. It's number one in market share in the Canadian rec space. BMO and RBC both said that, but there's also an article out. So BMO and RBC both said that Hexo is leading the Canadian market in market share, and then BNN releases an article like the day after saying Tilray's got the most. So I don't know. I don't believe out of any of those, I would believe BNN the least, because they're a narrative, right? They've always got the narrative, and they cater to their rich friends on Wall Street, and they paint that narrative. Their friends on Wall Street are buying, so they're telling people to get all this PR FUD about financial and bankruptcy and facilities closing. But make sure you don't say that it's from the acquisitions. Make sure you title it in a way that it scares them even more, right? It's just so obvious. And then why do you think we shot right back up and didn't last very long below 150? Well, it's because it doesn't matter that we dropped below it. The VWAP, the volume weighted, like, I don't understand how people read that and they said, oh, the share price is below 150. This isn't good. And I'm like, well, did you read it? It said the 20-day VWAP, volume weighted average price. So big difference between price dropping below $1.50 and price dropping below $1.50 20-day VWAP, right? So again, just emotions, right? People their judgment's clouded. They're not thinking straight because they're panicking, right? And it's I totally get it. I totally get it. But like I said, just stick to it. If you were a victim in this bear market, just learn from it, right? Try not to make the same mistake. How heavily shorted? Oh, I already did that one. Yeah, I agree. Day trading isn't worth it. Like you said, you're glued to the screen and it's so much more risky. Yeah, and like, I understand the value of day trading, and I've been successful at it. It's just I don't care about it. It's not. It's exhilarating. It's almost next to gambling, right? Basically a step down from gambling. It's educated guessing, but I would say investing and educated investing is a lot less more like gambling than day trading. But you again, just because 99% of people don't make it to the NHL doesn't mean we don't have an NHL, right? Doesn't mean that people don't play in the NHL. Just means that 99% of people are going to fail at day trading. So why even try, right? And especially if you're starting out, like if you just bought a stock or a crypto in the last like few years, and you're just like, I'm going to be a day trader. Well, you're probably going to be in for a rude awakening. If you slowly ease your way into it, maybe see if you like it, that kind of thing. Personally, it's not for me. My back hurts and my neck hurts enough as it is. I work in the IT and technology industry. So the last thing I want to be doing is glued to a laptop for the rest of my life. I want to get life-changing gains once, through crypto. I've already had life-changing gains through my real estate investments, because look at how much the real estate market has gone up. It's absolutely insane, right? Like, who knew? So then, pretty much financially sound after that. And then crypto went bananas, and it's going to continue to go bananas for the next 2 months, in my opinion. We're going to see the most life-changing wealth and biggest transfer of wealth ever over the next couple of months. And then over the next couple of months, I'll be looking to cash out most of my crypto profits, and then I'll rotate them into SPY short. So I'll short the S&P 500, and then I will be starting to buy more, averaging into, whether or not I'm buying into strength, depends what MJ's doing at that time. But I would suspect that when crypto falls, the S&P 500 is going to fall. We're going to see a flock and a huge, panic and wave of fear. People are going to flock to, fiat currencies like the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. But then what I expect is going to happen is we're going to see inflation and metals and stuff like that go back up. But I don't think we're going to see as much of a safe haven in the dollar this time as we would on the previous market crashes, just because we printed so much of it, right? And people know that inflation, is just going to run rampant. So if you're wondering why gold's been up the last few days, well, that's because Bitcoin's been consolidating for the last, in my opinion anyway, Bitcoin's been consolidating for the last several days, and SPY's been consolidating for the last several days. So if Bitcoin is an inflation hedge and it's at an all-time high, and SPY's at an all-time high, well, where are people going to want to put their money? Well, I don't want to put it in stocks because we're at an all-time high. That's risky. Then they go over to the Bitcoin chart and they say, well, I don't want to put it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at an all-time high as well. It's the best hedge against inflation. Maybe I'll go over to the gold chart. Okay, yeah, gold's hitting new lows, so I'll put it into gold, right? What tanked the market there the other day? Inflation fears. So why has gold been going up? Because in my opinion, there's inflation fears and Bitcoin's at an all-time high and SPY's at an all-time high. Who wants to park money long term and it's at an all-time high? Silly retail. Silly retail. New money, I should say. Park new money. Do you know when the dilution will happen? Dilution from what exactly? Like more round of funding or the debt redemptions that they're paying each month? Because if you're talking about the debt redemptions, that'll be about around 20 million each month. Which, like I said, they can just pay with shares, but we want to get that as high as we can so we're not diluting as much. But in terms of another round of financing or raise, I think it could happen one more time. We'll see. We'll just have to. I really don't know, to be honest with you. I would say at some point over the next 6 months. But I could see one more raise and then potential profitability leading into the end of the year for Hexo. And one thing I just want to highlight here too, folks, is one of the things I've seen a lot lately is just the interest in Hexo in my videos. Like I try to keep. I mean, obviously, I'm very pro Hexo. It's my biggest MJ holding. And a lot of our people in our group, their biggest holding is Hexo as well. So that's why I cover that one so much. But to be genuinely honest with you, that is the one that people want the most. So I cover it the most, and it's the one that gets the most views. And, from the beginning of my channel, I've been trying to incorporate, both US and Canadian stocks. And it just seems like nobody is interested in Canopy or even Tilray or even the US MSOs, but Hexo. And I'm telling you, the amount of people from the States on my analytics, like you can't even buy Hexo products. And you should see the analytics of people watching Hexo from the United States, right? Like just put down your emotions, leave your emotions at the door. You're here to make money or not, right? And I'm not here to pump stuff. I'm just telling you guys, why would I pump something when it's net down 85%? Why would I be doing videos if I'm pumping it, right? Like most people say, oh, you don't know anything, right? Like that's what the haters and the trolls get. It's Hexo, the best company ever. Yeah, it's down 80, 90% from all-time highs. It's like, okay, right? Like obviously I'm not pumping the stock. I'm going against the grain. I'm doing what the majority isn't doing. Most people are selling and not talking about MJ stocks. And I'm blasting out MJ videos left, right, and center because now's the time to pay attention, right? If you want to make life-changing gains, now's the time, right? Just like with Bitcoin. Back in March 2020, I was telling everybody over here, right? March 2020, I said, it's like, now's the time, right? I said, we're changing weekly and monthly trends. And then as soon as we broke 10,000, that was the go signal. And then that's when we started the parabolic move, right? But again, even if you missed this run and you said, I had so many friends that missed the Bitcoin run when I first bought in for 3,000 in 2017 and then went all the way up to 20,000. Those same people said, oh, I'm not interested in Bitcoin anymore. It's too high. But then it fell to 3,000 twice. It fell to 3,000, went to 14,000. Then it dropped to 3,800 again, that Black Swan COVID event. And then it ran 16x, right? So 1,000, some names ran 200, 400, 500x, right? If you would have put like $1,000 into Cardano, it'd be worth, like millions, right? Or even Dogecoin. Some of those, right? But as long as you're just buying in a bear market, there's always going to be another opportunity. And like I said, in this bear market, how much downside did we see? 95, almost 98%. That's brutal, right? How many people got shooken out and bought high and then just, I'll buy it back later and then it starts running. Maybe they even bought cannabis stocks and then cannabis stocks went on a brutal 2-year slide, right? Like trying to time the market is just not good. As long as you're buying in a bear market and selling in a bull market. And with that being said, like if you're holding Bitcoin, the next couple of months, I think we're going to be topping out here soon. So full disclosure, I'd be cautious on crypto. I'm going to be looking to scale out of my crypto positions over the next couple of months, and I'm going to be, like I said, focusing on shorting the S&P 500 and buying beaten down MJ stocks. To pay off tax. Oh, sorry, I didn't read your other correction there. When do you know when the dilution will happen to pay off debt? Yeah, so yeah, okay, so yeah, you were talking about that. Well, whatever. I'm sure people benefited from that explanation anyway. But yeah, it's every month essentially. Matthew M, keep up the good work, buddy. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, bro. Leisha Ann, if I'm pronouncing that right. I also wonder what your exit strategy is in general. I'm up 200% on Blue Metric in about 9 months. Laughing out loud, wishing I had loaded more. It's just a small investment. Well, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, Leisha. So like, if it's a smaller investment, is it really worth taking out? Is it gonna, is gonna change your life in any way? But a lot of knowing when to exit is knowing when to enter and to have a plan before you enter. So if you have a plan before you enter, well, okay, I'm only going to invest $500 or $1,000. So, I'm a long-term investor. So if something goes up 200%, is that going to be enough? Is that going to create enough value in your life for that to be life-changing, right? And if no, well, then maybe you're selling too soon, right? So, and then if maybe, if you're starting with $1,000, ask yourself, what's going to be a life-changing number for me? And it all has to do with where we're at in the cycle, right? Like crypto is coming in near the end of the bull cycle. So your profit target shouldn't exceed 3 months, right? It should be someplace over the next couple of months, right? It's hard to tell when the bull cycle and bear cycles are ending and beginning, but one would just have to wonder that, we're probably on the tail end of the crypto one. And again, it doesn't take a market genius to figure out that we're probably on the end of the bear cycle for the MJ space, right? So just getting that done, getting that down, and then saying, okay, I'm going to invest no more than I'm willing to lose. I'm going to put $10,000 into pot stocks here in this bear market. And maybe I'm not going to buy $10,000 here. Maybe you were thinking about buying a couple of months ago. Maybe you said, well, we're still trending down while everything else is at all-time highs. Historically, MJ space has been very volatile. So when it goes up 10 to 15x to the upside, it's very common for it to drop 60 to 90%. So then you say, okay, well, instead of putting $10,000 in at these levels, maybe I put $5,000 in now, and then I put $2,500 in at a lower level. And I save $2,500 in cash in case, if something really bad happens and it tanks 20% or 30%. Or on the flip side of that, if the reversal starts and we change daily uptrends and weekly uptrends, maybe you buy then, right? So there's so many different ways to take an exit strategy and an entering strategy, but they kind of both go hand in hand. You need to have a realistic investment horizon, right? What I would do as well is check out palgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com. Click on Academy. I have a free course there, Alicia, and I go through a lot of that psychology and stuff like that. I'm working on some other courses as well to go a little bit more advanced, but that's a pretty basic course. But like in terms of Hexo, for example, where I would look to take profits if entering now, again, a lot of people are down, so it's very, very different. But let's say you're a net new buyer here, right? Or maybe you're buying here when we lost $5 and you bought some at $4 and $3 and $2 and $1.50, right? And you're averaging in your dollar cost averaging. So now you take what your average price is. So if you started averaging at about $5 and you enter in $4, so your average is around $3.50 or $3.25, right? Just rough math. Your average is $3.50. So probably not going to want to sell before $3.50, right? So anything below that, you just simple buy and hold. And you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket either. Maybe you diversify into a few different MJ stocks, or you don't put all your investing capital into the MJ space, because then you get frustrated when Tesla and the broader market is at all-time highs, right? You want to diversify. So I've got an account with crypto in it and an account with MJ in it. I don't sell and take the money out and put it into crypto. My crypto account's my crypto account. Except when I'm taking full profits. When I take profits out, I do not put it back in the market. I'll put new money in. I take those profits and I rotate it into something else, right? And keep in mind, if you're selling, you could incur tax if it's in a cash account. So that has a lot to do with it as well, right? Maybe you're in a cash account, you don't want to incur long-term, short-term capital gains, right? If you're in the States, you have to hold something for at least a year to get short-term or to get long-term capital gains rate. So again, I'm not a tax specialist. Consult your financial advisor, but if your average is 350, maybe your first profit taking level is $5, right? So from 350 to $5, you're looking at 45% worth of upside. So maybe you take a little bit of profit there, but maybe you look at how much you're investing, your initial investment, and then you just do the math. Okay, well, what would my initial investment be worth if it was at $5? Is that enough money to make me want to sell, and is that life changing? Or if it all went to zero, would I be okay, right? And it's like, okay, if it all went to zero, I'd still survive, right? So maybe you want to up your target. Maybe you up your target to $10, right? But obviously, we're not just going to go from, like, for example, like back here, obviously we're not going to go from $1 all the way back up to $20, right? We're probably going to ebb and flow. We're probably going to go whoop and then down and then up and then down. It's like a roller coaster, right? It's called an emotional roller coaster. And this is how they rinse, repeat, and just, flush all retail. And eventually retail mostly always loses because of this. Like, why do you think a chart looks like that? Why do you think you have all these waves and impulse waves and downside, right? And waterfalls. So then nothing goes straight to $20 or $30 from $1, right? From $1.38 to $11, we're up 672%. So you're up almost 7x, right? In just a few months. So, or in about a year, sorry. So, or even from these lows, right? If you were getting in at 232 area there in November and October, you're looking at 4x, right? In a few months. So, that, and like I said, when you use these indicators as well, so RSI can help you with knowing when to take profit and things like that. It all depends on, like I said, on the amount of your investing. You can use different indicators like RSI, which tells us whether or not an asset is overbought or oversold. So anything down here would be oversold, anything over there would be overbought. But like I said, I do a pretty basic crash course overview of the technical analysis as well, and there's some interactive lessons in there as well. Pretty cool. Teach you how to identify an uptrend and a downtrend with, like I said, with some videos and some interactive quizzes as well to help you. If you're anything like me, I'm a visual learner, so I think you could benefit from that. But I would highly encourage you to check that out. But hopefully that answers your question. I know it's a pretty long-winded question, and it's not really something you can answer in a sentence. But Jay Sama, great TA, mate. Thank you very much, my man. I appreciate it. Ben, hey, what's up? Little late. Hey, Ben. No worries. You made it. Better late than never. If Tilray managed to get $60 plus with FOMO, why couldn't Hexo do it? Although it is pretty far stretched, but we have seen the same type of move. Yeah, absolutely. And Hexo's #1 market share. And like I said, how many people in the States are talking to you about how they can't wait to buy Tilray products or Canopy products? I know of no one. But like I said, just the amount of analytics of people that watch my Hexo videos, a lot of them are from the States, and they can't even buy them. Most of them haven't even tried their products. They're just like, I can't wait to try them. A lot of people are telling me to ship them some across the border. Obviously, I wouldn't do that because it's illegal. But, that speaks volumes, right? Like, look at numbers and data and trends and logic, right? Don't just, it's just like I've seen so many emotional investors recently, and then it's like the polar opposite in crypto right now. Everybody thinks they're freaking geniuses, right? It's like, I don't know anything, and I just bought it and it went up. Like, man, I'm like the Midas touch. Everything I touch just goes to gold. And you just throw darts and you make money, right? It's like, yeah, I'm a friggin' pro. And then, a rude awakening is going to come in the crypto space to a lot of people. But that same thing's going to happen again and again with MJ and many other different industries. Water Wilds and Weeds, I'm late. Well, welcome to the party. Still got 27 people on the live stream on a Friday night, so cheers to that, folks. All right, having a blast. How's everybody else doing? Let's go through a bit more questions here. So, Rob, my man. It's Rod. I don't know if that was a typo, but yeah, Rod. I get that a lot. A lot of phones autocorrect to Rob as well, so you might have even meant to put Rod, and then autocorrect just had a different something else to say about it. My fave analyst. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. Hey, Mike. Welcome. I missed the Hexo coverage. Yeah, again, if you look at my channel, if you go back through the history, I've try to, cover a lot of different names, but I go where the most of the people in my group, in POW group, want to, I'm not going to waste my time on things that people don't want to know about. But when I'm asking everybody and they're saying hexo, and yeah, if you look at the numbers from my hexo videos compared to MSOs and Tilray and all that stuff, it's night and day. And like I said, a lot of people from the States can't wait for hexo analysis and products and reviews and, just updates, right? It's just, it's awesome. It truly is going to be a company, on the pursuit of greatness, right? They're 100% carbon neutral. Like, how many people do you know? How many companies trying to be carbon neutral by 2030 or 2060 in countries now as well? And Hexo did it in like a couple months. Like, oh yeah, no big deal. It's like, what, $500,000? Sure, no problem. We'll offset the emissions of our 1,200 employees and save the planet. And unfortunately, a lot of people get it backwards, right? And you got to think too that there's emission taxes, right, from the federal government. So eventually these companies are going to have to pay for the emissions regardless. So they might as well just conform and do it, get it over with. So Hexo's got it over with. So now they can focus on building and executing and while being, good for the planet. And that's going to attract a lot more brands and high level leadership and companies and brands and household names that are going to want to do business with Hexo because of that image, right? Because of that. That's a big deal. After COVID here, after this whole pandemic ends, I think climate change is going to be the next main focus. And yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be a big thing. So yeah, BAM. Yeah, I did BAM earlier there, Ben. So if you want to just go back in the video, I know it's a bit longer. I'll see if I can put some timestamps in it here after. I was trying to keep this video a little shorter today, but we've had quite a few questions and whatnot, and that's usually the case with these live streams lately, but I don't mind at all. It's always a blast coming on here. What did I say, my man? Hexo breaks the lows and it turns around. Yeah, you did say that. You called it, Justin. Yeah, man. It's like, it happens all the time, right? And MJ, even MSOS did it too, right? Like, where is it? Right here. So a lot of people thought this was the time MSOS was going to recover. Right here, we had the daily uptrend confirmed. But what did we not really do? We didn't get over EMA 26 convincingly, and it was a bit of a bull trap. So we had the low, high, higher, low, and higher high. Bull trap. Then we came down, broke to a new low, and then we get the real move, right? How much was the low from the low to high there? About 12%. Yeah, still not even getting over the EMAs. And then when we finally did, we started to pull back. That was a red flag. And then as soon as we lost 29.26, we lost the daily uptrend. And then we were just like, okay, going back down, right? And then we get that final push down, like you said, Justin. And then we see the real move from low to high, 25% from the low. And then we see the convincing low, high, higher low, higher high. Bull cross of the EMAs, could see upside into next week. We did have resistance there at 32.77. We hit a high of 32.30. So also got 33.46. So like I said, I could see a potential gap up to around $33, $34, maybe even $35, get extended. And then, yeah, you get all those people, right, that low, high, oh, it's just another pump and dump, don't buy it. Yeah, see, it's consolidating. It's going back to 25 and below. I'll buy it at 20. And then they're in denial. And then we change the daily trend. Because they bought back here and they got faked out, right? And then now they're chasing. And they're like, oh, I'll buy on the next dip. And then now it's probably going to run up to like $35. They'll get FOMO, buy the top, and then that dip will come that they were waiting for. Because they listened to emotions and FOMO'd in. And then they end up selling the bottom because they FOMO'd in. Then it goes back down, and that dip they were waiting for originally finally comes because they didn't not listen to emotions and use patience. And then that dip finally comes, and then they end up selling the bottom again because they FOMO'd. So. Oh, thanks for correcting that, Andrew. Yeah, Rod. Turnaround time. Let's go. You bet, Stefano. Also, bears spreading fear. Yeah, man, yeah. Go ahead, be a bear, be short. You want to short something when it's down 80, 90%, that's great. If you've been shorting, if you made a lot of money shorting MJ the last few months, you're probably long now. Right? The people who are shorting are the emotional people that are just squawk boxes and yeah. Like I said, I don't spend a whole lot of time on social media because I can't stand it. When people get behind a keyboard, they think they're you know, they think their crap don't stink. And yeah, I just can't stand the FUD and the emotional aspect of investing, right? When people are whining and complaining, oh, the company's going bankrupt, but yet they don't give it any logical reason why the company's going bankrupt. They just put the words, the company's going bankrupt, like get over it, move on to something else. It's like, okay, no, how about we have a thoughtful discourse and a conversation, and you raise some points, and then I'll raise some points, and we'll have a debate or a discussion. And we'll see if we can try to convince each other otherwise. Like, why do you have to be so hell-bent on any one thing? We should, like that. I heard something to say that the other day. We shouldn't be so focused on being right or wrong. We should focus on when to know something. How did he say it? He said we shouldn't be focusing on whether or not we're right or wrong. We should just try to focus on the majority of people who are right? We try to get a consensus of what people are saying, right? And if the majority of people are saying something, who cares, right? If you're right or wrong, right? We just want to know what the most likely scenario is, and we welcome thoughtful discourse. You and I can disagree on something and still be friends, or still make money in stocks, right? Just because I invest in MJ stocks doesn't mean you have to invest in MJ stocks. But just because I invest in MJ and you don't, doesn't mean they suck, right? It's like, everybody just, everybody needs to take a chill pill. And I appreciate the quality of comments and the quality of viewers on my channel. I really do. I appreciate each and every one of you, because like I said, it's pretty humbling to have a channel where I don't have anybody moderating my chats or anything like that, right? I do all my own thumbnails. I do all my own video editing. I do everything. I do all the PAL group for private members. I do all the answering, so thank you. Genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I honestly do not want to deal with the trolls. I know it'll happen eventually. Maybe they'll be in here by the dozens, but you never know. Just knock on wood. It's been going pretty good. So not gonna talk too much about that, because like I said, it's inevitable, but it's something I've noticed for sure. Hexo all day, baby. Yeah, you bet. Justin, metals have to go way up. We need them for the green energy future big time. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, Bitcoin's at an all-time high, SPY's at an all-time high. If Bitcoin is an inflation hedge and it's at an all-time high, well, and not everybody wants to buy Bitcoin, right? What about the baby boomers? What are the baby boomers going to do when these inflation scares are starting to spur up like they are? Well, they're not going to go buy my dad, for example, isn't going to buy Bitcoin, but he'd buy gold, right? Or the old school investor, the baby boomers and stuff, that generation, they wouldn't buy Bitcoin. And then the people who are looking to hedge against inflation, that are interested in Bitcoin, who know anything about investing, are going to look at a chart, and within 5 seconds, they're going to say, okay, well, Bitcoin's not the one I want to park it in, right? Unless it drops significantly here, then that's a different story. But that's why I think gold's been going up the last several days. Hexo all day, baby, you bet. In Minneapolis, and cannot wait for the 70-pack of Marinara cigs from Hexo. Yeah. Oh, the King pack. So 70 pack. So there's 10 in each pack. So 70 readies it's $150 in Ontario. It's probably going to be like closer to $120 in Alberta. It's always cheaper there, and there's only 5% sales tax. But yeah, you're in Minneapolis, and you can't wait to get the 70 pack. Where are all the Bears at? Where are all the Tilray supporters at? Where are all the Cannabis supporters at? You see this guy in Minneapolis? He's talking about Hexo. So funny, man. So funny. But yeah, BAM, I did BAM earlier, so if you want to go back on that one, there wasn't really much to go over there, but like I said, the tier one names, like the top LPs and MSOs, are all up double digits, some 20-30% gains basically today. So those small to mid cap names, just not getting a whole lot of love, like BAM and Love, a few other names. But we could see some profit taking from the tier one, from the large caps into the mid and small caps next week. So just keep an eye out for that. Generally, BAM runs like when nobody else is running. And then, not always, but it's very notable that it'll run when nobody else is running in the MJ space. Or like SPY will be down you know, a percent or two, and bam, will be up like 10% out of nowhere for no reason. It's just the way it is. I have 2.31 average and learned a lot this cycle. I kind of just went all in and sort of DCA'd, but if I would have known, I would have not went all in. I would have just DCA'd. Yeah, exactly, right? And setting those targets, it's really hard to, like when we drop from $11 to $5, you're like, oh, it's got to be the bottom, right? And it's really hard not to just go all in at that point. But, you know, even if you only go 75% and save 25% and then set some levels below that, right? Because when Hexo was down 40%, Tilray was down like 70% from February high. So, and then all our CGC started to go down and started to trend lower. Hexo was actually the best performing there before their bad earnings that they had when they had those strain issues and the hash issues. But yeah, they were one of the best performers. And then after that happened, it caught up to the rest of the market. All the other LPs were down, you know, 60, 70, 80%. And then that's where the whole industry, then all of Canadian MJ started to fall about 80 to 90%. MJ in the US held up a little bit better because there's not as much money and it's not as manipulated. And yeah, they're just people, they're able to run up LPs more because there's more access to major exchanges and more capital. So, and you can create more of a hype and euphoria and a blow off top. And then that's why you see that way more gains to the upside in a shorter period of time. But then that's why you see it fall harder, because what goes up must come down. And if it goes up in a hurry, it's probably going to come down in a hurry, and it's probably going to be a brutal downward fall, right? So just remember that the next time MJ runs 10, 15, 20x, so the next time something goes up 1,500% or 2,000%, expect a 50 or 60% pullback. Like maybe not right away, but it's probably going to happen, right? Like if Hexo, for example, or yeah, we'll just say Hexo, for example. If Hexo starts to reverse here, and let's say we shot all the way up to like $7 on some news. Well, if we shot up to $7, a pullback of 40, 50% would only bring us back down to $3. That would still be up, we'd still be up from current levels about 65%. So it's like perspective and knowing these things, right? Yeah, like for example, let's bring up Riot, like Riot blockchain. Again, it's crypto and MJ, very similar. So if you bought Riot in March 2020, and this is another name that I was bullish on. If you bought Riot back in March 2020, let's go to the monthly time frame here. So if you bought Riot in March 2020, it got as low. Where'd it go here? There it goes, 51 cents. I don't know why that took me so long there. I'm getting a little tired here. So 51 cents it got down to, and it hit 79.50, right? And basically just went straight up. No monthly consolidation, high or low, every single month, right? No one knew it was going to go from 50 cents to 79 cents. That's 268x. So if you put $1,000 into Riot in March 2020, in February 2021, it would have been worth $269,000 thereabout, right? $1,000 into $250,000, right? So then we should expect, when something runs that kind of crazy amount, we should expect a brutal pullback. And then look what happened. We pulled back about 75%. And I said to people on Riot, we had a descending triangle there too, similar to Hex on MSOS and some of our other names, right? We had that descending triangle, and that's what we had. We had that follow through, but because crypto reversed pretty quickly, and it was more of a targeted. It wasn't. It was a drop, but it was planned. It was definitely orchestrated, and it was to get retail to completely capitulate and then go back to all-time highs, right? Just a brutal market. So that's why we saw that recovery pretty quickly here, I think, on the blockchain names. But, you know, that case in point, we ran 250x, and then we dropped 75%, right? So we need to expect that. And then look at what Tilray did. Tilray went from, what, $4 to 67? Yeah. So it went from 441 in September. So at the end of, in October, didn't really go till November. So let's use November. So it went from about $5 all the way up to 67 in 3 months. Or in like Yeah, we'll say like 4 months, just on average. So we'll say 4 months, it went up 12x. So if you put $1,000 into it, in, around the end of October or the beginning of November, in about 4 months, it would be worth $12,000, right? So when something goes from $1,000 to $12,000 in a few months, you need to expect an 85% pullback. Because look, even with an 85% pullback, the low is still only 998, right? So you're like, oh, this is the most brutal pullback. I can't believe I endured the worst pullback in MJ history. But look where we are from the lows. We're still up 200% from where we were in September of last year, right? So it's just a matter of perspective. And this is why I was buying back here at 441. But then nobody wanted to buy then. And when I was releasing, videos then, everybody told me I was crazy. And I was like, well, I'm going to be buying the LPs because US MSOs have been topping out, and they've been running for about a year straight. And I think MJ, I'm not focusing on US MJ. I'm focused on Canadian MJ. I think they could play a nice laggard. And then when the real move comes, there's actually major exchanges and real money involved, right? And when you're talking billions, like Aurora had like $6 billion traded in it one day, I think. Show me a US MSO that has anywhere near that amount of traded volume in a day. Like, let's just take a look at MSOS. We had the most record weekly volume ever, right? This week, all-time high record volume. And how many shares traded? We're at 20 million shares traded. So we take 20 million and we times that by a share price, we'll say an average of $30. That's only 600 million. And we're talking about an ETF for the whole US sector. And Aurora had billions of shares in one trading session. Yeah. We all learned, I think, everybody can learn that similar lesson, Gemini. So you're definitely not the first. You definitely won't be the last. Like I said, this is the 6th or 7th time, maybe even the 8th time in the MJ industry where we've dropped 60 to 90% in a bear market. It's happened multiple times in crypto. It's happened multiple times. You remember the thing called the .com bubble? Well, that was a long time ago in 2001. And when everybody thought tech stocks were probably never going to be worth anything or investable, this year really changed those doubters, right? Like, we went way higher than the .com bubble. Their packaging for the XMG drops is great. All paper and glass, very limited plastic. Yeah, well, that's their commitment. Absolutely, Steve. Good point. That's their commitment to the environment and being, I get a lot of people ask, well, how come their branding and the Health Canada has limitations on branding and warning labels have to be like super huge. So you can't really make anything look great. But then their packaging, a lot of people are like, how come they're not making it like these other LPs or whatever? And it's like, well, that's a lot of plastic, right? Like, I got a bunch of these Ogen, it's really good craft grower here, but there's a bunch of containers and they're, it's a lot of plastic for only 3.5 grams. So and like some of the ones Cannabis was coming out with and the first things you seen when it first was legal in Canada, it was like, are you kidding me? Like, there's more here in plastic. There's more weight in plastic than there is of actual weed. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you even weed, bro? Like, what's going on here? I'm from the States, and we really have no idea about the quality of Hexo products. We live vicariously through you. Thanks for the product reviews and TA. Absolutely, Bill. Well, again, for everybody at home, if you're doubting Hexo, or if you're wondering if Hexo is going to be what's going to happen when our friend Bill Clemens here in the live stream with you all gets to buy Hexo? Hey, Bill, let everybody know in the chat, how much money do you think you're going to spend on Hexo in the run of a year? And are you going to incorporate some of their drinks maybe even into your weekly routine? I know you haven't tried them yet, but what if you like them? I know some people who were very big wine drinkers, and he reached out to me the other day and he said he completely shifted to he's like, I used to try like cannabis drinks and beverages all the time and they sucked. Like, I was in Colorado not too long ago and Vegas, and absolutely terrible, like the haha drinks and the Keef drinks. It's like, get out of here with those. And they were super expensive and just terrible chock full of sugar. They tasted like crap. The cans sucked. Like, just the technology of the cans, like, you can't make a can, bro. Like, what's going on here? And then he tried the Truss, Molson Coors, and Hexo beverages, And sent me a picture. He's got a whole like freaking bin full of trust beverages. It's like can't get over how well they work, how quick they kick in, and it's only going to get better. Like wait until we get volume across so Bill can buy. Once Bill Clemens can buy, and their friends from the South here in Minneapolis and wherever else, then it's going to. What does Trent always say in Hexo? That margins will improve and costs will go down with scale, with volume. That's not rocket science. Budweiser and Budweiser doesn't make the best beer, but they sell the most of it and they make the most money and they have the highest market cap. So again, for all those people that are saying that Hexo doesn't have this or doesn't have that and this other LP, I wish they'd be more like that. Well, like Canara Biotech, for example, yes, they can make really good weed, or Ogen, they can make really good weed, but can they make it at scale? And do they have distribution all over Canada and every province? And do they have the foundation laid already in the States, right? That is huge. Like Hexo one of these days will just be like, okay, now that we got the foundation, in the States done, and we're in every province in Canada and we have #1 market share, you know what? Let's create a hemp cigarette to compete with Tat. Let's make a hemp CBD cigarette and we'll pump that out all over the U.S. since it's legal, just like our Trust CBD USA joint venture. What if they get into that? They already have the technologies to roll it, right? So now they just need to figure out the taste aspect to mimic a cigarette. Shouldn't be too difficult when you got the most IP and patents of any company, and then you're already on the way to global domination, carbon neutral. You got everything going for you, right? And then you say, okay, well, maybe we're going to go buy one of the best craft growers, and then we're going to apply all that we've learned and use our R&D to make that craft growing operation even better. And then they'll come in and then they'll just destroy, right? Like, but again, like Budweiser and Molson Coors, their beer, they're like Coors and Coors Light. It's not the greatest beer, but that sells the most, right? And it's the cheapest, right? So at scale, what's going to do well? I think Hexo has the best plan, and they have some of the lowest costs per gram for production costs, right? Because of cheap energy and all that stuff. Yo, so if I only invested $20, how much would you expect I can make? I would say that you're wasting your time investing $20, unless you meant 200, but what's right versus wrong matters. Yeah, like if you're, again, yeah, don't take everything I say completely literally. Like if you're an accountant, being right on a number is, it's either right or it's wrong, right? It's like, no, like if you're on a balance sheet, if you add numbers up and you put the wrong one, well, like that matters, right? Like there's only right or wrong. But in MJ, you don't have to be right on timing the bottom as long as you're buying near the bottom, right? That's all that matters. That's the point I was trying to make. Or the same thing on the way up. As long as you're selling near the top, right? It's people who think they can time the market. That's when they get wrecked. Is it time for the shorts to cover the MJ stocks yet? Yeah, I think it's already been happening. And we need to expect a little bit more of some short attacks here in the next, I would say in the next few days into next week. And then, like I said, that's when a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, we're doomed again, right? And then they get faked out again, and they think we're going to go to new lows, and then we just form a weekly higher low, change the weekly trend. Maybe we don't. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But again, I'd much rather be buying near the bottom than trying to time the market. And the thing with MJ stocks is it's so manipulated. You can tell by the quality of the titles and stuff like that. Like my dad, a couple of nights ago was like, oh, your MJ stocks must not be doing too good. And I was like, what in the hell are you talking to me about MJ stocks for? I was like, you seen a mainstream media article, didn't you? He's like, oh yeah, front page Apple. And I'm like, oh, what did it say? He's like, oh, just that they've been like in turmoil. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. So now he's telling me that I shouldn't be wasting my money on those weed stocks. And then the market makers know that. So then they know that, there's going to be this pressure from your friends and family to sell your stocks. But just funny how it's at a 52-week and all-time low, hey, when that stuff comes out. But again, being able to recognize that stuff's just comes with time, and people don't think the market's rigged, but I got news for you. it's almost like, you know, the whole world is a stage, right? And it's sad, but again, as long as you can identify that, and you know, this money's just going to go to the market makers anyway. So if we can intercept it, you know, we don't have to be whales. We just need to move with the whales, and if we can move in the same direction as the whales before it's too late, then that's all that really matters. Respect Stonas. Hey, isn't this crazy? We can message "What's up?" my plural form of the. No, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, I don't know what that. I'm not going to get into that. If you put in little amount of money, you make little amount of money. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Pretty simply put. Scared money never made no money, as they say. But not "was up" plural. Okay, I have the C word. Nice to see you're having some fun with the swear words on the chat. But you can message Cannabis. Can I make more than 20 investing 20? Easily and quickly. Well, like I said, if you put $50 into Dogecoin, let's just say you put $20 into Dogecoin. It went from like 0.002, I think it was, to like 73 cents. So if we do 73 divided by 0.002 equals 365x. So if you put $20 into Dogecoin times 365, that'd be worth 7,300. You know, you would have to get extremely lucky. And how many people were buying Dogecoin when it was at 0.002? Nobody, because the retail wouldn't want to buy when something's at an all-time low or near the all-time lows. No. They want to wait for their friend to call them up and say, hey, did you hear about Dogecoin? But by then it's already too late, right? XO needs a hash pot ready mix option. It would make them more value. Yep. Well, like I said, all that good stuff's going to come in time. I wouldn't say quickly, but I would say easily, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Rod. We'll definitely dive into your class over the weekend. Yeah, you bet. You're welcome. Well, it's free, and put quite a bit of time into that, so I hope you got nothing really to lose, and hope you find some value in it. I'm pretty sure you will, so. If Hexo eclipses OGI by Xmas, I think we could see $4 to $5 by holidays. Yeah, I think $4 to $5 by the holidays is super, super doable. Do y'all only invest in ethical cannabis companies? Well, like Trulieve, I just shared an article here about the husband going sentenced to 3 years in jail and fined $1.25 million. I've always avoided Trulieve for that reason, just because I never knew, right? If there's any chance of total loss, I'm not interested. And yeah, I missed out on Trulieve going up like crazy. But if we just take a look at where it went from like $8 in March 2020 all the way up. So it went up like 6x. But look how long it took for it to go up 6x, 600% or 800%, we'll say, 7.5 x. So 750%, it took 329 days, okay? How long did it take for Tilray to go up 13x? So it went up 13x, only took 153 days, right? So I was, you know, I didn't care about Tilray Truly, because I made my money with Tilray. I was focusing on Tilray, and I already, you know, I had some other MSOs like Curaleaf and CL. So Cura and CL. So look at where they went from like 281 in March all the way up to 22. So it went up like 8x, about the same, right? GTII, but I really liked Cura and CL. Those were my horses. But if we look at that, 5x. So Cura went up 5x, CL went up 8x. Who cares if I missed out on Trulieve? I got my 8x anyway, and I didn't have to worry about my sleep being impacted at night because this girl's husband was being in a RICO case, right? So I could care less. There's always other opportunities like that. Again, if you're FOMOing and you can't like let it go, like you're probably not going to make it as an investor long term, right? Because you just need to know that there's other opportunities out there. And when there's hype in the market and greed, like Fear and Greed Index, this should have everybody worried. What does Warren Buffett say? When there's blood in the streets, buy, and when it's greed, sell, right? So we're seeing greed, 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 extreme greed, extreme greed. And a month ago, we were at fear in the market, right? So we're at extreme greed. Now's the time where you don't want to be, FOMOing into stuff and just doing things based on emotion. Now you want to be careful. So, but yeah, mostly I just look at fundamental analysis. I look for a few great companies, just like kind of like a Warren Buffett style. You only need 2 or 3 really good companies. Yeah, you bet. All right, so wrapping it up here, I saw T got hash 2 gram, $45 Canadian, and their stock has stuck at 17 cents. It was $9 an ounce. Once. Oh, okay. It was $9 once. Yeah, I got absolutely wrecked. Well, Hexo sells 2 gram hash for like, I can't remember. I think it's like $20. Something crazy. Or like $18 or something. But if they wouldn't discriminate against people with cannabis convictions, that'd be nice in relation for the exam. Yeah, exactly. And that's something too, right? Like just racial equality and, just all those people that had negatively expungement of records, that type of thing. Can you imagine, like, people are still going to jail today in some areas of the world? Like, I think it's Singapore. If you get caught with any, like, more than, like, 30 grams of weed, I think it's death penalty. Like, you think we got it bad. I heart MaryJane2.com. Yeah. Can't wait. There's so much untapped market share in the States. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the MSOs are kind of showing some signals of topping out here in terms of like growth, actual growth, like the multiply effect of all of that and exponential growth. And I think that like LPs, they're expanding a lot more into international. And like I said, once they can cross the border, it's going to like, do you think that they're topping out in terms of growth? Or do you think that the growth has really only just begun, right? That's what gets me excited. A bottle of Labatt's beer used to cost 28 cents plus bottle deposit to produce. Yeah, exactly. I don't trust the nanotech stuff. Yeah, maple syrup works better. It's crazy that some states are legal and some aren't. Once they legalize here, the sky's the limit. Yeah, you bet. All right, Ed, more than freedom. All right, wrapping up. I think we're pretty much near the end here. Respect. You're just a chat machine today. Just filtering through here. The holistic medicinal market for pot shake is not being covered for tea, etc. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I like Verano. Respect Stonus. I think it's a good company. They had some crazy gains. Some crazy gains. I've heard some pretty good stuff about their products, and yeah, Verano's been very impressive. Patients in Illinois will receive medicine that is not only effective but absolute highest quality. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the great thing too with these companies. Like they focus on quality and like the money will come later, and then focus on the planet. Right. That's why I really like Hexo too. Is they're focusing on the planet first, and then they're focusing, and then the money will flow. Right. That a lot of people focus on the money and get greedy first, and and then karma and all that other negative things start happening to them is because you want to be thinking about the planet first, in my opinion, especially in this day and age, and then as a result of that, good things will come your way. I truly believe that. I'm a big believer in you reap what you sow. Veronica from Chicago. Yeah, gotta love Chicago. Used to be called Gold Leaf. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes really okay. That makes more sense. Yeah, absolutely. Let's end the war on MJ. Couldn't agree more. Respect, Stonus. So, respect, my man or woman. I'm not sure if you're a man or a woman, but you sound like a man, so respect. All right, gonna end it there, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, guys and gals. Closing on just 2 hours. I think my last live stream was 2 hours a couple Fridays ago, so that's funny. Maybe I'll just kick around for another 15 minutes to make sure we hit that 2 hour mark. All right, I had an absolute blast, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth again. If you could just, on your way out, smash the like one more time, subscribe to the channel, tick the bell, you'll be notified when I go live next. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining the live stream. I'm out as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. And take care. We'll see you again on the next video. Be blessed.